Okay, good evening, and once again, welcome. We are doing the studies. Does God exist? Um, so far, we have done 6 sessions. If you remember, evidence against the existence of God. Is belief in God irrational? Arguments for the evidence of God. Biblical evidence for God. If God created the universe, then who created God? Can belief in one God be proven? And today I would like to conclude this topic. Does it matter whether I believe in God or not? This is a very important question. People say, what's the difference? And we should find out if it really matters if we were to believe in God or not. Okay, that's the topic. Look at this statement by Dalai Lama. I'm sure you know him. He is one of the spiritual gurus of Tibet and some parts of Asia. Whether you believe in God or not does not matter so much. That's what he says. Whether you believe in Buddha or not does not matter so much. As a Buddhist, whether you believe in reincarnation or not does not matter so much. You must lead a good life. And a good life does not mean just good food, good clothes, good shelter. These are not sufficient. A good motivation is what is needed. Compassion without dogmatism, without complicated philosophy, just understanding that others are human brothers and sisters and respecting their rights and human dignity. So, according to him, Buddhism is one of the growing religions. Many followers, surprisingly, many Western followers follow Buddhism also. According to him, whether you believe in God or not is not an issue. That's not is a big issue for him. He says you must lead a good life. You must be a good human being. You must respect others' rights. What do you think? Is that a correct statement? Is that a correct statement?
No.
What he said, the second part of what he said is true. But belief in God, they believe in God, but look at their propaganda. It doesn't matter. Now, today I would like to show why it matters belief in God and how does what all he said in that statement actually makes sense only when you believe in God. What is belief? Simple definitions means to believe, to accept something as true, to have faith, to cling to something that you think is there, and also to accept the statement of someone as true. Okay, now the question, does it really matter? That's what we are trying to answer. This is a question that we often hear. What is it? Does it really matter what I believe? As long as I believe in something. This is a very postmodern way of putting your belief system. Or as long as you believe helps you, isn't it all it matters? As long as what you believe is helping you, that's enough. What is so big deal about it? So today we are told that's nice that you believe that, but I wasn't raised to believe that way. Josh McDowell, that's what he said. Sometimes belief system is so subjective, we actually think, oh, it is not for me or whatever we could think of. Look at the next part of the statement. The idea behind statements such as these is that there is no absolute truth to believe. So it doesn't matter as long as you believe something. That's important. If they say there's a problem with that statement because they are not referring to anything that is absolute. And truth must be absolute if it has to be truth. Thus, the act of believing is all that is there. You might call it relativism, the theory that there is no objective standard by which truth may be determined, so that truth varies with individuals and circumstances. That's the world we are living in. Truth varies from people to people and from circumstances to circumstances. That's how this world is looking at the truth.
At the moment.
If all of you can mute yourself, please. Okay, now the idea of finding any truth or meaning in life has escaped modern man. This statement reflects the inability to conceive of something outside of one's life. Look at that statement. The idea of finding any truth or meaning to life has escaped modern man. They think it's not possible. And the statement reflects the inability to conceive of something outside of one's life. Outside your life, there's nothing that you could really discover. There are no rules by means of which we would discover a purpose or a meaning of the universe. That's what they say. There's no particular rule in the universe that would define what is the meaning or purpose of life. Even though we live in a day in which we all have definite beliefs about things, everybody believes certain things. Today's culture seems to value the act of belief rather than any real object of belief. That statement I want you to understand. Most people believe that there is something that we believe. Act of belief is more important than the object of belief. Be not afraid of life. Believe that life is worth living and your life will help create the fact. Look at this statement by one of the pragmatists, William James. He says, you don't have to be afraid of life. You must believe it is worth living. And your belief, when you start believing yourself that it is worth living, that belief will create itself the facts of life. Is this statement true? If you see most of the self-help books, the most books that are sold in millions today are self-help books. Though that have become a trend. So many are writing those books. This is one of their philosophy. You must believe in yourself. All the powers are within you. You can create what you want by your belief system. There's nothing impossible to you. You can climb any mountain. You can achieve anything you want. You just have to believe in yourself. So believe that life is worth living. And when you believe in yourself, you create things. You bring out facts. Is this statement true? For those who believe in God, it is not true. Why? Unfortunately, this is not the case. Why? Belief will not create fact. Just because you believe, that doesn't mean it creates facts. Truth is independent of belief. I want you to get this statement. Truth is not affected by your belief system. For example, God himself. Whether you believe in God or not doesn't affect him as a person or as a being or as a God himself. Your belief in God is not going to affect his identity as a God. You may believe, you may not believe, but that doesn't determine who he is or who he is not. The fact remains that he is God. So truth, whatever it can be, is independent of belief. No matter how hard I may try, believing something will not make it true. As one of the authors said, for example, I may believe with all my heart that I wanted it to snow tomorrow, but this will not guarantee snow. Or I may believe that my rundown old car is really a new Mercedes convertible, but my belief won't change the facts. Facts are different from belief. Belief is only as good as the object in which we put our trust. I think that's the important point. Someone may come to me and say, hey, let's go for a ride in my new plane. I may believe that it is safe, but if his plane hardly runs at all, or he doesn't even have a pilot's license, then my faith, no matter how strong, is not well founded. So just having a belief in something, not realizing its facts, not having evidence of what it is not good enough. That's not objectivity. But most of the, as I said, just because you believe in something doesn't mean that it is a fact. That's the point I'm trying to get. For example, look at the Bible itself, what it says. The Bible also emphasizes the fact that it is vital what one believes. Look at the statement from John 8:24. For unless you believe that I am who I say I am, you will die in your sins. Now, Jesus is talking about a belief here. Belief in what? Belief in what? Something that is objective, that is himself. He's saying, unless you believe that I am. Look at the next statement in John 3:16, John 3:36. All who believe in who? God's Son have eternal life. Those who don't obey the Son will have will never experience eternal life, but the wrath of God remains upon them. So what is the stress of the scriptures here? The stress of the scriptures is not so much on the act of belief. You may say, you may believe. It is not your act of belief that is important, but the object of your belief. In these two texts, what is the object of the belief? John 8:24 and John 3:36. What's the object? It
Jesus.
is God. Yeah, it's not your belief system. Belief in something that is objective is more important. So what is emphasized is not so much the one trusting. You may say, I'm trusting, but rather the one trusted. Your faith is weak or strong, not based on what you think about, but what you believe in. Because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. So this is key to understanding what it means to believe. People today believe whatever they wish to believe, but this will lead to their ultimate destruction. This is important. You can believe whatever you want to believe. Those beliefs can lead you to life eternal. They could also lead you to destruction. Just because you believe doesn't mean it is right. Just because you don't believe doesn't mean it is wrong. But the consequence of our beliefs we will experience. Let's look at the example of the Bible history, the story in the Bible. One of the darkest periods in the history of Israelites is during the time of kings, and of course during the time of Ahab. We know this story very well. Elijah, there was God. He wanted to prove who the real God is. He goes to Mount Carmel. He builds the altar with wood, and he lays, the story very well. The Baal went first. He told them, you go first and call upon your God. If anyone could start a fire from the sky, it is believed it was Baal. Why? Because he was the great nature God who controls the weather. That's his power. What does he control? He controls rain, thunderstorms, lightning. So the priests of Baal paraded over the altar all morning until the afternoon, beseeching Baal to respond. These false prophets jumped all over the altar, cut themselves and swords, danced into frenzy, raved and pleaded all day. No one can say they were not sincere, or they did not believe. Yet nothing happened. They believed that their God can do a miracle. They believed, but nothing happened. And what happened? After they finished and the altar was rebuilt, the Lord God answered with fire from heaven and consumed the altar and sacrifice. And the false prophets of Baal were then slain. We know the story. So what is the point here? If sincerity and belief saved, then these prophets should have been spared, isn't it? If all that you need is a genuine belief in something, whether it is real or not, is enough, then these prophets should have been, their prayer would have been answered, and their prayer, their faith, their belief would have saved. But no, but sincerity and belief are not enough. These prophets had their trust in the wrong object. That's why I'm saying belief has only meaning as long as it has an objective in which it is absolute. So these prophets had their trust in the wrong object. That's why no matter how much they cried day and night, it didn't make any sense to their belief, because their belief is not in the absolute. They had never chosen to investigate the truth. God requires man to put his faith in Jesus Christ. Nothing will satisfy them, or either him or them or him. So that's why when it comes to believing, our question is, does it matter whether we believe in God or not? I'm trying to lay the foundation of why that statement, why it matters. There are two contrasts when we think of this one. What are they? There are two contrasting perspectives that we must first be aware of. The first is absolute truth, and the second is relativism. And all of you who have studied philosophy or psychology, these two words are very common: absolute truth, absolutism, or relativism. What do they mean? It's almost simplistic level. Absolute truth holds that there are some universal truths that are valid at all times and in all places, even if we don't believe them. That's absolute. You may not believe, that's okay, but that doesn't mean that absolute doesn't exist. whatever that absolute could be. It remains, it crosses all cultures, it crosses all times and spaces. That's why we call it absolute. It is not determined by any belief system, neither by any creation. It is there. What about relativism? Says that many forms of truth are relative and are not absolute. These truths shift over time and culture. Relativism means there is no absolute. It could change anytime based on the necessity. You could say this thing today, but tomorrow it could change because the necessity demands it. So that's relativism, where things can change and there is no permanency. What do you think is the way to understand what the truth, relativism or absolutism? What you believe is affected by the perspective from which you view the truth. That is important. If your prospects of thinking or your thinking is on relativism, then all that you see around affects that kind of belief system. For instance, if there is no such thing as absolute truth, then no particular belief can be more important or moral than any other. In other words, if you are a person who believes in relativism, where things can change according to times and culture and needs and whatever, then there is no one particular truth that you hold as absolute, because it doesn't make sense. And there is no moral standard by which you have to abide, no matter who you are or where you live, because relativism gives you space for change and change of direction as well. So if you think absolute truth exists, then what you believe about a supreme being is likely going to impact you. In another sense, if you are a person who believes in objectivism, that there is something absolute, it is not affected by your thinking or by culture or race or time or space. If you believe in that kind of a system, then it impacts how you see the world around you. So two contrasting perspectives will determine your belief system. Now, many scientists, if you go into the scientific world, many scientists refute the idea of relativism. As much as there are certain things that they believe relativism is key, but there are certain things in which they refute this idea. Why? Because they point out that the universe itself operates under basic principles, what they call laws of nature. For example, gravity. It's an absolute law. It is not changed by time or season or people or place or your belief system. Imagine gravity changes year by year or century by century. It doesn't work like that. It is absolute. Your belief system doesn't affect the gravity principle that governs the nature. Other critics of relativism has pointed out that the assertion, all truths are relative, contradict itself. Why? Because a definitive statement about relativism is in itself an absolute. So even by statement, it doesn't make sense. So what are we saying? That's what is a true contrasting statement. What about truth and belief? Are they the same? Can the truth and belief be the same? Most religions speak about absolute truth. For instance, Muslims teach predestination, believing that Allah decrees everything that will happen. Hindus believe that Dharma, a power behind all of nature, holds all things in harmony. Christians believe that the resurrection of Jesus provides the way for reconciliation with God and the hope of eternal life. All these major religions hold this truth as absolute. But these truths are a part of what the members of each of these faiths believe, even though none of them can be proven. However, truth is not the same as belief. Sometimes we make judgments about others based on how they fit into our expectations. This is key. And beliefs regarding what is true, right, and agreeable, whether mentally, physically, or spiritually. History is filled with examples of beliefs that have had nothing to do with the truth. For instance, Hitler massacred 6 million Jews during the Holocaust because he sincerely believed they were detestable and that eradicating the Jewish race was the right thing to do. Yet that belief was not true. Can you see the difference between truth and belief? You may believe certain things to be what you think, but it's not necessary that what you believe is true. He believed getting rid of Jews is the right thing to do, but is that the reality? Is that the objectivity? So, but you see, beliefs, why? Beliefs are important because beliefs affect your behavior. Our behavior is determined by the belief system that we hold as important. So, what are we saying then? The impact of beliefs. What does the impact of beliefs mean? Somewhere along the way, our beliefs inevitably influence our actions, even when we don't realize it. What we believe shows up in our interests and in our activities. Isn't that true? Whatever you believe, you will see it acted by yourself, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily. We generally spend time on things that affirm our beliefs and with people who agree with us. That's what the effect of belief is. And whether we admit it or not, we tend to agree with others who have beliefs similar to our own. It's almost like saying birds of the same feather flock together. Our belief system dictates with whom we go about, what we do, what we don't do. If we believe that the earth is flat, as did ancient mariners, we will avoid sailing too far from home. Have you realized when they saw the sea, it was at one point they said the dip that they couldn't see. If you go to that one, you will fall down. So people avoided going to the corners of the waters that they could see because they thought the earth was flat. So our belief system dictates our boundaries also, how far we can go. If we believe that life exists on other planets, we may spend time studying the stars and the universe. Likewise, if we believe that a supreme being could exist, we want to explore more about that person to see, understand what it might be like and that what that would mean in our lives. But Christians teach that there is a God who created everything. They teach that he is perfectly loving and fair and that he will judge the world, holding everyone accountable for their actions in light of his truth. The Bible says that anyone who comes to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. In this particular view, our beliefs matter because they affect our relationship and standing with God. Because of our belief system in God, it affects the way we live and the way we see the world through the lens of our belief system. Belief and decisions. Does our beliefs affect the decisions we make? Yes. Whether we choose to accept, reject, or passively ignore something can have a profound effect on both our lives and the lives of others, whether or not we intend to do it. Because of our belief system, it happens. Our beliefs guide us in making decisions, whether we believe it shows up in our choices every day. In this way, what we believe matters immeasurably. Some of our daily decisions have the power to change lives at any moment. Identifying what we believe, the choosing what we do will do with our beliefs matters. The point in this slide is your decisions are made by the belief system that you are holding to. So that means our beliefs dictate the decisions that we make in our life. Also, what about action? Similar to this thing. As a consequence, if you believe something is true, what do? You must be willing to act as if it were true. If you are unwilling to act as though it is true, you can't really claim to believe it. This is why actions can matter much more than words. In other words, when you believe something, you are prone to most likely to act upon it. In other words, bring your belief system into action. What brought the action? It's your belief system in that particular belief that you have. We can't know the contents of a person's mind. That's true, isn't it? You can't read people's mind, but we can know if their actions are consistent with what they say they believe. A religious believer might claim that they love the neighbors and sinners, for example, but does their behavior actually reflect such love? Sometimes our belief system is only judged by the actions that bring out of the belief system that we have. Why is Christianity not progressing? Not that we don't believe in God, but we are not acting out our belief. We say something, we do something else. So belief in that sense. Why are beliefs important? Why is belief important? Beliefs are important because behavior is important and your behavior depends on your beliefs. I want you to get this statement. Why is belief system important? Because your behavior depends on your belief system. Everything you do can be traced back to beliefs you hold about the world. Everything from brushing your teeth to your career. This one of the authors said, why do you think brushing your teeth, why is this put here? If you believe brushing your teeth improves your health, or your gums, or clean your teeth, that belief system prompts you to brush every day. If you don't believe, then you don't brush. All this means that beliefs are not an entirely private matter. Even beliefs you try to keep to yourself may influence your actions enough to become a matter of legitimate concern for others. Sometimes this is commonly what we hear. Oh, religion is private. It is my personal issue. You don't have to worry. Also, but whether you believe it or not, our belief system, voluntarily or involuntarily or purposefully, it affects the world around us by our lifestyle, by our actions, by our way of living. It affects others. So it is never a private matter. Believers certainly can't argue that their religion have no impact on their behavior. It is not true. Our belief system has so much to do with our behavior. On the contrary, believers are frequently seen arguing that their religion is critical for the development of correct behavior. The more important the behavior in question is, the more important the underlying belief system. The more important those beliefs are, the more important it is that they be open to examination, questioning, and challenge. That's what behavior can affect us. Tolerance and intolerance of belief system. This is key. Our belief system makes us whether to become tolerant or intolerant based on what we believe. This can be seen specifically in the religious world. Given the link between beliefs and behavior, to what extent must belief be tolerated, and to what extent is intolerance justified? It would be legally difficult, not to mention impossible on a practical level, to suppress beliefs, but we can be tolerant or intolerant of ideas in a wide variety of ways. For example, racism. It is not legally suppressed as much as there are rules against it, but most moral, sensible adults refuse to tolerate racism in their presence. We are intolerant. We become intolerant when we see a racist remark made, or somebody is being racist onto us. We don't stay silent while racists talks about their ideology. We don't stay in their presence, and we don't vote for racist politicians either. The reason is clear. Racist beliefs form the foundation for racist behavior, and this is harmful, isn't it? People who believe they are superior to the other people, that belief system, because of the color of their skin or because of their social status, they're better off. You can see that in their behavior. And that cannot be tolerated by those who have the other view of being not racist. So it's difficult to think that anyone but a racist would object to such intolerance of racism. Yet, if it is legitimate to be intolerant of racism, then we should be willing to consider intolerance of other beliefs as well. So the real question is how much harm the beliefs might ultimately cause, either directly or indirectly. It's really unfortunate. Sometimes our belief system has caused more damage than good, because the way we perceive and behave with what we believe. Belief can cause harm directly by promoting or justifying harm towards others. Isn't it? Belief system. Some religions believe it is good to kill those who are infidels. So that kind of a belief system affects their behavior. And others believe you must forgive your enemies, pray for them that hurt you. And that kind of belief system affects their behavior where they become tolerant to what has been said or done to them. While the other side of the coin is they don't want to be tolerant, they take revenge because their belief system dictates what they do. So beliefs can cause harm indirectly by promoting false representations of the world as knowledge, while preventing believers from subjecting those representations to critical, skeptical scrutiny. I don't know if you're still around or you're lost in what I'm trying to say, but let me come to certain things that would highlight what we are trying to say. What scientists have learned about benefits of believing in God. Before I really put what I feel is the benefits of believing in God, because the question is, Auntie, because the question is, does it matter whether we believe in God or not? So I thought before we really put my own rationale or what I think is right, I was trying to look for some scientific evidence to see if the belief in God makes any difference or does it matter. I came across this article called Research Summary for the Benefit of Things. And the subtitle is, what is the benefit of believing in God? That's the website I got this from. And I was really impressed with the way this article was written because it was a research article. It's not just somebody said it out of their mind. So I would like to share with you few points from this article that actually tells what is the benefit of believing in God. Number one, the natural compulsion to believe in God. You know what that means? Whether you believe in God or not, whether you're educated or not, whether you have any background to any religious upbringing or not, there is something in humanity, what we call natural compulsion, that makes everybody, irrespective of your race, color, creed, religious background, educational background, social status, there is that natural compulsion, or another way of saying it is natural instinct to believe in a higher being. Of course, we as Christians, we call it God. For example, in 2012, scientists at the University of Missouri proved conclusively that there is no special part of the brain that have evolved into a God spot. Such a specialized part of the brain, some have theorized, might explain why previous research noted a degree in activity in the right parietal lobe of the brain. Instead, this latest research showed that several parts of the brain are neurologically active when people have a spiritual feeling or experience. That means there is no part of the brain where you say that activates the spiritual side or belief in a God. Everybody have the same brain. But when people start thinking about about a person, there is that part of the brain that is activated where people can have this spiritual feeling or experience. Do you think only people who believe in God have these experiences? Scientists are saying no. Every human being, that's why it's called natural compulsion. Everybody have these spiritual feelings or experiences. It also says in 2011, scientists from the University of Oxford, Department of Anthropology, and the mind announced that humans are predisposed. Look at this. Humans are what? Predisposed to believe in God and an afterlife. It's not talking about people who believe in God have this belief system. Humans in general. This is a remarkable finding, for even though it does not prove that God exists, it points to an essential need in human experience. Why did this need evolve if it was not placed there by a creator? It's an intriguing question, and we know not where the quest for enlightenment will take place. What does that mean? Every human being are predisposed to believe in God and in the life after. Everybody has some kind of an inclination. How did every human being, whether they believe in God or not, have this inclusion? Of course, Christianity, we could give an easy, because in creation, God has kept us that quest or thirst or whatever you call it. In another study published in September 2011, scientists at Harvard University discovered that highly intuitive people are more likely to believe in God or to have stronger beliefs in God than less intuitive people. The researchers could not say if intuitive thinking leads to a belief in God or if belief in God leads to intuitive thinking. That's another discovery. Another thing, the approach of death may also trigger belief in God. A study published by the Department of Psychology at the University of Ontario in 2012 found that even atheists experience an unconscious strengthening of belief in God when they experience death anxiety. What does that mean? Even when the atheist, even on the deathbed, they go through these emotions of some hope that there might be God who is higher, that there is some hope beyond their death. The feat of death, the study confirmed, prompts people to defend their own worldview. So non-believers' disbelief in God becomes stronger. But at the subconscious level, the non-believers were less confident in their belief. They verbally, outrightly say, there is no God, I don't believe this, I don't believe that. In the face of death, there is that element in human compulsion, human life or human being that prompts or triggers some kind of a belief because they become so vulnerable at the deathbed, and they're looking for something beyond what they believe. In other words, an atheist who is in fear of dying may feel more convinced about his disbelief in God, but nonetheless experiences doubt. This lends credence to, but does not prove, popular anecdotes about the atheists who recanted their disbeliefs on their deathbeds. We have some experiences of atheists going through that experience. So the first benefit is what? Natural compulsion. It is in the human genes, so to say. What about other benefits of believing in God? The health benefits. We are looking at the scientific evidence. It's not just this. Science has also learned that the faith one places in God does provide a direct benefit to one's health and well-being. The most profound effect of believing in God is a reduction in stress. People who believe and trust God are well able to cope stress and improve their well-being physically. That's what the science have come to realize. If you go to so many hospitals, our hospital in Florida, they have even done research and study how belief in God reduces stress. In 2011, researchers at McLean Hospital, which is associated with Harvard University, discovered that the more trust one places in God, the less one tends to worry. Furthermore, people who trust God are more likely to tolerate uncertainty. Conversely, the researchers also found that the less one trusts God, the more one tends to worry and the less tolerant the individual becomes of uncertainty. People who believe in God are able to face uncertainties with a much more positive attitude than those who don't. And people who believe in God, according to this university hospital, Harvard University, McLean Hospital, they are able to less their worries because they believe in God. The follows on research published in 2010 by scientists from the University of Toronto, who found that thinking about God only reduces stress for people who believe in God. Non-believers who think about God receive no stress-reducing benefits from the activity. This was the second of two experiments that confirm that thinking of God only helps people who believe in God. In other words, people who believe in God can benefit their health in reducing stress and worry. But people who don't believe in God, but they want to think about God, it doesn't affect them because in their belief system, they don't believe about God in the first place. In addition to lowering stress, scientists discovered in 2010, patients who believe in God responded better to medical therapies used to treat depression and bipolar disorder. This groundbreaking study from Rush University Medical Center showed that patients who believe in God were, look at this, 75% more likely to respond to medical treatments. A study published in 2013 by McLean Hospital confirms these findings. Amazing what belief in God can do to your health. However, there is a downside to believing in God. This is also true. Scientists at the University of Missouri discovered in 2015 that patients who feel they are cursed with bad karma, karma is like destiny, or reaping the results of your actions, or that God is punishing them, experience more pain and worse physical and mental health than other patients. I'm sure some of you will agree with me, some of the most unbearable pain in one's life is guilt, isn't it? Sometimes we may look outwardly okay, but the guilt is eating us up inside. So even among those who believe in God, if they believe what they're going through is because God cursed them, or because of the guilt, or God is punishing them, it is worse in them, because their negative attitude of what they're thinking actually can cause worsen your mental health and physical health. So belief in God has even the negative effect. If you think you're suffering because God cursed you, haven't we seen the evils of such kind of a belief in the Israelites' camp and even among people? They do all sorts of crazy things when they realize how to get over this curse. We have seen in the Bible, they're offering their own children, slaying and killing them to appease gods. And many other experiences where it is so cruel experiences people have gone through just to overcome this guilt and the fear that God is punishing them. So this kind of response to thinking about God obviously is not beneficial, but it does imply that maintaining a positive outlook on life can have a benefit impact on your health. Guilty feeling can cause so many diseases, stress, worry, eat up your own mental health. So thank God for Christianity. As much as we know we suffer because of our actions, your belief in God that He loves you, He cares for you. If you're willing to change, He forgives you, He cleanses you, He gives you health. Those positive outlook attributes of God can enlighten your health and your prospects of your mental health. That's the kind of God we have. The third benefit, the social benefits of believing in God. By the way, when it comes to health, you have heard America in one of the, they studied the different faith groups who live the longest. I'm sure you come across, you can Google this. I didn't put this here. They have, there's an article, a very scholarly article written. Adventists live at least 10 years longer. And the reason they found it is because of their healthy living habits. This was done almost, I think, 20 years ago or so. I don't know today because I don't know how much of we really care for health message, but that's what we were known for. Loma Linda also did those studies. It's because of the belief system that we have that came up with this. So that is another thing. What about social benefits of believing in God? Look at this. There are also indirect benefits to believing in God, although research does not delve into how much fakery might evoke these benefits, but human society has evolved to depend on a faith in God in many ways. And the evolution of human society was probably also driven by the general belief in God. Look at the social framework of the human society, the what we call the civilization and the civil laws and the rules to govern our own countries or states or whatever, how man has made the rule of life, all these things have their belief, their roots in the belief of God. Most nations and their principles, their constitution was based on the belief of God and the principles that God put together. Most of the civil laws, even judicial laws, other laws have their background or beginning in the belief system of God and his principles. Britain is an example, America is an example, most of the European countries is an example. Even Hinduism, it may not be the God we believe, that their belief system of society is from their own religious belief system. So the social framework of human life and its principles and governing things have their belief system from the religious part of what the society has experienced. In 2007, scientists at the University of Columbia discovered that a belief in God tends to make people more generous. By itself, this is an interesting finding, but it does not seem very significant. That's what is come. But yeah, people with a belief system seems to be more generous. A follow-up study published by the same group in 2008 found that people who believe in God are more likely to be generous and cooperative with non-believers in two situations. What are they? First, when they believe doing so many enhance their reputation. Second, when the religious thoughts are freshly activated in their minds. This kind of behavior, the researchers theorized, may have contributed to the growth of large, successful societies. Look at the presence of belief systems or groups, faith groups in the face of natural disasters and human man-made disasters, the relief systems, the relief organizations, how much they bring value to the social life because of their belief system that we are our brother's keeper. We need to care for one another. That's what belief in God has done to the social systems. Also, and this year, scientists at the University of British Columbia have published a paper showing that people who believe in all-knowing gods are more likely to be cooperative and to enforce social morals, but also to be more fair in their thinking towards unrelated groups of people who have similar, if not the exact same beliefs. Without these beliefs, the scientists say, humans may not have been able to evolve highly complex social systems. Political leaders who invoke God in their rhetoric have known for a long time that people trust them more. Now, scientists at the University of Houston have confirmed that modern voters are more likely to vote for a candidate whom they perceive to be religious and less likely to vote for a candidate whom they believe to be an atheist. Well, people use God's name to get to power. We know that, the other side also is true. People can sound and look religious, but they can be evil. They can act as though they're religious just to get votes because they know people tend to support whom they think have some kind of a religious background because they believe they will have fear of God and will uphold the morality of the society. The general belief among believers that non-believers lack morality is consistent with social defense mechanism that results in the vilification of enemies. Researchers at New York University found that we tend to dehumanize members of other groups unless we perceive them to be threats. Dehumanization results in thinking of other people as mindless. But when the other person disagrees with our views, we impute a mind to their behavior and humanize them. What about the consequences of believing in God? There are individual and group consequences to believing in God. In 2000, researchers from the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business found that people are more likely to filter their critical thinking of God through their own religious views, but are equally likely to be more objective in their critical thinking about others people's belief in God. In essence, what are they trying to say? People who assume that God believes certain things are more likely to believe those things too. but are not so easily convinced by someone else's belief that God believes certain things. In 2011, scientists at the University of Waterloo in Canada published a study that shows people who believe in God are less likely to pursue their own personal goals. This is key. Why are so many Christian missionaries forgot about their own goals, their own health, their own means, their own wealth, and went and pursued something that is totally foreign to them? It is because of the belief system in God. And by doing that, the contribution was so much to the society that they served. David Livingstone in Africa, William Carey in India, and many other missionaries. What is the studies to believe in God are less likely to pursue their own personal goals because they think of others more than they think of themselves because of their belief in God. And also more likely to resist, and they resist temptations better, those who have belief in God. The belief in God thus strengthens the believer's ability to do what is right and to abide by the rules of society. It is belief in God that have kept us on the right path. All of us who are here, we could, our kernel nature wants us to do so many things, but we are controlling, we are withholding. Why? Because our belief system told us, is telling us that's not the way of life. Otherwise, if we have to act by our kernel nature, we would have become beasts in our behavior in many ways. So that's one of the benefits. In another study published in 2015, researchers at the University of Stanford School of Business found that evoking thoughts of God in people who view advertising makes them more likely to take risks. Simply thinking of God made people perceive less danger in risky behavior than not thinking of God. Finally, atheists often argue that believing in God leads people to wage war and commit murder. That's one of the arguments from the atheists, isn't it? If you say you believe in God, look at the wars that are fought in the name of God. How many people are killed? But the research has shown, the authors of the 3-volume Encyclopedia of Wars, if you go read the volume of and 3 volumes of Encyclopedia of Wars, they have analyzed 1,000 historical conflicts, and they found only about 7% of those 1,000 historical conflicts were actually fought in the name of religion. What about the rest? The vast majority of wars have been fought for secular reasons. Majority of wars. Look at the present wars. What is the war? What are the mainly wars are fought because of man's selfishness? They may sometimes mask it with the religion, but deep in heart, it is to acquire their own selfish motives. So even this 3-volume Encyclopedia on Wars have said only 7% are fought in the name of religion. And in January 2016, researchers from the New School of Social Research and Carnegie Mellon University published a study that shows that beliefs about God can mitigate bias against other groups and reduce barriers to peace. That is scary. Sometimes we bring belief in God can do that damage, begin barriers, but Christianity teaches otherwise. Just believing it doesn't make any sense. You need to practice if it were to show your beliefs are good. So what's the conclusion? Believing in God has been good for mankind in general. Despite what vocal non-believers have been saying for a few years, the belief in God has proven to be a positive experience for humanity for many reasons and in many ways. Our conflicts and moral failings occur in spite of beliefs in God, isn't it? In spite of we believing, we still fail, not because of the moral standards, but because of our own things, how we do. But our health and our social well-being are also positively impacted by our faith in God. While this research does not prove the existence of God, it does shed light on the power of faith and the incredible amount of science that has been conducted around beliefs in God and the benefits such beliefs provide. Even in the medical field, ask some of the doctors. Sometimes they don't have medicine, but the belief the patient shows in a God They have seen miracles happen because they cope well with the disease, and they also cope well with how they overcome those diseases. So in conclusion, the question, does it matter whether we believe in God or not, is, for me, it matters because our identity, the identity of human life and human existence, you can only give a true identity to human life if you believe in God. Because Bible says man was created in the image of God. Our identity is in the Creator, not in a creation, like what many other peoples believe. Meaning and purpose of life. Nobody, atheists cannot give explanation to what is the purpose of life, because they don't know the existing principle of human life. If you want to find out what is the meaning of your life, you can only find it in the being that is higher than you, whom you are a part of his creation. It is simply anything that you see around, anything, the book, you cannot ask the book what is its purpose. You must ask the creator of the book what is its purpose, because he created it with a purpose. So also our identity and meaning and purpose in life can be realized in the creator who created us, nothing outside of that. Accountability of one's actions. In belief in God has actually helped humanity to be held accountable to one another's actions. It is that system that God put in us that we are able to accountable. Mental health, as we have seen through the scientific research, people who believe in God are enjoy more of a mental health. People who believe in God enjoy more of their physical health, because what does the religion believe in God teach? Don't drink, don't smoke, don't harm your body with harmful substances, eat healthy, do exercise, take sunshine, breathe, sleep well. All these principles that Bible promotes help physical health. So belief in God and research have shown how physical and mental health are improved by those who believe in God. Social life is also better with those who believe in. We tolerate others, we accommodate others' views, we help others, and we live harmoniously with other people, though their belief system may be different because of who we believe in, what we believe. Moral life. Personally, for me, this is the key, because there is no morality outside religion. No atheist, no evolutionist can come with the evidence for morality outside God, because they think it just happened. We are governed by our natural instinct. They may call it a natural instinct, but it is not so. It is God who put this morality that is universal, that is objective and absolute. Stewardship and benevolence. Belief in God has actually made us more responsible citizens of what the resources we have, the management we are called to do, hold each other accountable, responsible, use the resources given to us more beneficially. And benevolence. We are also taught what we believe, that all that we have is not ours, it belongs to God. We need to share with those who do not have it. So you can see how benevolence has its beginning in the belief of God. Coping with stress and worry, as I said, this is, and when you see some people who cannot even cope with, they try drugs, they try all sorts of things. But those who have a relationship with God, who believe in a God, they have a very true natural way of mechanism to cope with stress and worry. It may not leave them, but they cope well. I'm not saying that those who believe in God don't experience stress or worry. We all go through that. But we are able to manage it well because we look beyond the present to something more hopeful and more glorious. As again, beyond hope. Only those who believe in God have this hope beyond grave. Those atheists, evolutionists, and all those who don't believe in God, for them, they don't have meaning for life. Once you die, that's it. But us, that's why people who are bereaved, when you lose your loved ones, those who believe in God and hope of resurrection, are able to cope well with the loss of their loved ones than those who don't, because they have that hope that all is not lost, though they experience the laws. Well, that's it. Next time we will start a new topic. Can you trust the Bible? We have studied this with all those who are in my group. Ask the pastor, but I'm going to include more of research into this because I've learned more also as I continue to read. So as much as it may be a bit of familiarity to you, but you will find new stuff that would be included in this. So we have now established, does God exist? I think by now you could have at least had some concept. For me, my studies have strengthened my faith in a God. I may not be able to prove him scientifically, but I have all the evidence that there is a God who exists based on all the 7 studies we have done. Next, Bible is the most attacked book in the Bible, and let's see how can you actually trust this Bible. From next week, we will start our series of studies on that study.